Hey, welcome to the live stream. It's been a while. We're going to be doing a live Q&A tonight. I'll be answering your questions. If you have questions about traveling to Mexico, living in Mexico, anything else you want to talk about, Las Vegas, or anything else that you think I might be able to answer for you, just leave it in the chat box below and I'll get it to as many comments as I can tonight. So first, I'd like to start off by telling you about a new scam sort of thing that I found out about. Okay, so on my car, we have this like plastic thing in front of the air vent, and it was loose. It looked like there were a couple screws missing out of it, and it was loose. So when I took the car to the mechanic last time, I asked him to take a look at that. And after he did, he's like, "You know what, Jordan? I think someone was trying to steal something from your car." So he said that there's this new scam that he's been seeing that happens at Valet, where if you valet a car here, well, some of the valet people will have a shopping list of things that they're supposed to take from various cars, and they'll take things that you won't notice right away. So, for example, he had a client recently that had a missing speaker that was stolen from a valet here, because a speaker, you're not going to miss that immediately. So he's like, in your case, it was really weird. There were like 15 screws missing, plus like these plastic pin securer things. He said, "You know what? I think they were in the middle of a job trying to take something from your car and then got interrupted." So I thought that was super peculiar. Have any of you experienced things like that before? Hey, Miguel, good to see you here. Alejandro, you too. Hey, Kevin, good evening. Thanks for joining. Fernando says, never, never, never use a valet parking. Here in Queretaro, it's really common. So like even at like a Starbucks, if you want to park there, you have to valet sometimes, like the Starbucks Campestre here. And if you go to, there's a lot of restaurants here in Querétaro that are valet only as well. So a lot of times it's not really an option to not use valet if you want to go to certain places. And something, I'm wondering if I was a victim of this again. I'm taking the car back to the mechanic tomorrow and I'm going to have him look at this. But when I close the driver door and the window is down, now it makes this rattling sound. It's like for a couple of seconds, whereas all the other doors are closed normally. So now I'm wondering if a valet might have taken something from inside of my driver's door, like an airbag or something. I'm not sure. We'll see what my mechanic says tomorrow. But anyway, so I titled this stream, "How Could I Be This Stupid?" So I just did one of the stupidest things I've ever done in my life. Okay, so we go to a big box store here in Querétaro, Maya and me, and I have to do a return there. So this thing I'm returning is pretty big. So I go and I get a cart nearby. There's like always carts in the parking lot. I go grab one of them. I bring it over to the car. I open up the back door and I take out this thing. I don't even remember what I was returning. Maybe a vacuum cleaner. But anyway, I put that thing in the cart and I go into the store to do the return. And then we do some shopping. We're in there for about an hour. And we come out and the car door is open, not just unlocked. It's freaking open. It's all the way open. After taking that thing out to put it in the cart, I never closed the car door and I didn't lock the car. So I was like, oh God, what's going to be missing? So what do you think was missing? Everything that wasn't bolted down. No, I'm just kidding. Nothing at all was missing. There was nothing. Everything was still there. We had some sunglasses in there. We had a pair of headphones. We had like the center console full of like pesos or like change. And it was all still there. We even had Alaska's dog bed in the back. There was some clothes in there. Everything was still there after an hour of the door being completely open. I cannot believe I did that. Malia says you got lucky. Franco, I think you were guessing nothing was missing. Yeah. Uh, it actually reminded me of like I've seen videos from San Francisco, California, and car break-ins have gotten so bad there that people don't want their windows broken. So I've seen like pictures and video of people just leaving their hatch, like the hatchback of their SUV open, so thieves or potential thieves can see that there's nothing to steal in there. But Alan says, lucky it looked like a trap. Candace says, I did the same thing at work for the whole day. I'm lucky it didn't run down my battery. Oh, yeah, because I could keep the lights on, huh? Alejandro says, I bet anyone who saw that thought, nobody will leave a car like that unattended. Sure, they are nearby and take their chances. Yeah, maybe. But I felt really fortunate that everything was still there. So that was cool to see that I could leave the car not just unlocked, but literally open. It wasn't just open a crack. The door was open all the way. I can't believe I did that. And then I forgot to lock the car later after that, a couple days later. But anyway, let me get to some questions in the chat here. Oh, Ron says, don't they have those car washing people in the parking lot? In a lot of parking lots, they do. In this particular one, they did not. Mark says, that happened to me today too. My daughter left the door open to my car at the public pool and nothing missing. Hey, maybe that's what we all need to start doing. Just leave our car doors open. Noah says they think it's a bait car. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know if bait cars are a thing here. They might be. I just don't know what type of bait the police use, if any. Richie says, I live in Cancun, use Valet every week. Never had a problem. That's good. Yeah, I wonder if this new Valet theft thing is just a Queretaro thing or if it's elsewhere too. I'm not sure because I just heard about it for the first time from my mechanic. Marco asks, are you renting or did you buy the house? We're renting here. Will Red, have you made a video of your new place yet? No, not yet. I'll probably do that after moving out, or well, like make the video right before moving out and then post it after moving out. Do you have carnicerias in Querétaro? If you don't know what a carniceria is, it's a place where basically a butcher shop where you go to buy meat. And yeah, they're all over the place here. Candace says, we love your dog. How does he handle the heat? Well, if you're asking about Alaska, the 13-and-a-half-year-old husky, the one that I've had the whole time that I've had the channel, she actually handles the heat quite well. I didn't know this before having a husky, but they actually do better in the heat than most short-haired dogs. Yes, they love the cold, but their long hair also protects them from the hot sun. For example, Alaska was born in Phoenix, Arizona, way hotter than it gets here. And in the middle of the summer, when it was over 100 degrees outside or like 40 Celsius or something like that, She would ask to go outside. She would go outside. She would lay in the sun, and she would refuse to come in until she was good and ready, until she had gotten enough sun. And it was often 20 minutes up to an hour even. Whereas I had another short-haired dog, and I had a short-haired dog in Phoenix, and she could barely handle the sun at all. She wouldn't go back. She wouldn't really go out in the heat. So yeah, huskies actually do well here, but it's actually not really hot here in Queretaro. We're at 6,200 feet of elevation or something like that. So given its latitude and elevation, it's between like 70 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit as a high almost every day of the year. So it's nice weather year round. At least the valet didn't take the whole car. Phony valet parkers have been known to do that. Well, yeah, I guess that's not really something I've ever been concerned about. I just see a valet and I assume it's legit when it's outside of a business. Elva asks, Jordan, are there rents for a solo person for $200? Small place. Yeah, so that's that's a little less than 4,000 pesos. So you get a small place there. Probably not in Centro or like one of the most desirable neighborhoods, unless you were willing to do a shared room or like a room in a house, not a shared room. You're like your own private room in a house. There's lots of options like that available for $50 a month or less. And some of them even include all the utilities. So you pay 1,000 pesos a month or so, that's about $50, and you get a room in a house, and usually it'll have some basic furniture in there. And then sometimes it even includes internet, electricity, water, gas, like all the utilities as well. Now you can get a shared room I keep saying a shared room, a room in a shared house that's in a nicer house for more money. That's going to be, I mean, of course, the more you're willing to pay, the better it can get. But as for it being your own place, yes, for less than 4,000 pesos, you can find some places. Querétaro is one of the more expensive cities in Mexico, so it's going to be a little bit harder here than in a lot of cities. But yeah, it's still very doable if you're not super picky about what neighborhood you're in. Dan says, Jordan, I'm almost 70 years old and I'm being treated for short-term memory loss, aka absent-mindedness. One of my problems is not closing my car doors when I leave the car. Maybe I need to be treated for that as well. Have you had anything taken from you yet? Richie asked, what's the big deal about Querétaro? Been there once, never again. Roads are terrible. It's in the middle. Yeah, so it's in the middle of the country. I think it's a nice place to live. And a lot of Mexicans are moving here. Number one, there's a lot of high-paying jobs available, so that's what brings a lot of people here. But also, it's known as one of the safer places in the country, so that's also an attraction. But plus, you have a mix of modern and like colonial. So like you have the colonial central area. You also have the huge aqueduct running through the city, and in addition to that, like you go up to Juriquilla and you have the old mission there that's been converted into a hotel. So there's a lot of like colonial era buildings and such there. But then also at the same time, you have modern shopping malls, like lots of American and Canadian businesses. I know for a lot of people coming from the US or Canada, it's like, no, I don't want that stuff. But you know, a lot of Mexicans do, because they've been living here their whole life and they haven't had access to things like Tim Hortons. And now, just as of a few months ago, we finally got Tim Hortons and everyone's super pumped about it. But what else do I like about living here in addition to those? First of all, I actually disagree that the roads are terrible. I think for the most part, the roads are pretty good here. There are some roads that are bad, but I would say 99% of the roads here are pretty good and smooth. One thing I don't like is the traffic. The traffic can get really bad. But what else do I like about it? I like I like its location. You mentioned that it's in the middle of the country. It's almost smack dab in the geographical center of the country, but less than an hour away, you have access to a bunch of vineyards. Within an hour, you can get to several different cool little towns that they call pueblos mágicos. Within like a 3-hour drive, you could get to 20 different pueblos mágicos. So there's a lot of weekend trips you can take. And overall, I just think it's a pretty high quality of life here, and it's nice to be living in a safer place. Scott asked, how is Popo affecting you there, if at all, earthquakes? So we don't get earthquakes here, and we're probably like 200 or 300 miles away from Popocatépetl, the volcano that's near Puebla. So I haven't seen anything from that. Dan talking about his absent-mindedness, had $2,000 or pesos, phone on the console with driver door wide open. Yikes. Richie says driving standards are a joke. I'd agree with you there. I see a lot of people doing a lot of stupid things on the road. Oh, it's pretty unbelievable, all the stupid moves I see people do every day. Just yesterday, Mai and I were driving around the city, and I was getting so frustrated with people and the stupid things they were doing. For example, I saw this happen twice where there was a long backup of cars due to traffic, and then 2 different cars went into oncoming traffic to pass the whole line because they think they're more important than everybody else who's waiting in that line. Michael says, Querétaro looks like an amazing place that I'd love to visit, but I don't think I'd be able to stay away from the beach. And I mean, you can get to the beach pretty easily. Like, there's an hour and 15-minute flight that leaves from the Querétaro airport I think it's Tuesday and Thursday, or maybe it's 3 times a week. Maybe it's Saturday as well, on Volaris. It's an hour and 15 minutes to Puerto Vallarta. Or you can go to many other beach destinations as well, but that's a direct flight from Querétaro. So it's pretty easy to get to the beach as well. And like, being in the center of the country, flights are cheap to most places. I mean, you can get round trip tickets to most beach destinations in the country for $100 or less. And Paris says, hey, Jordan, it's been a while. I know it has been a while since I've been on here. How's wifey? Mai's great. She's going to sleep early tonight. A Tesla will tell you if you leave your door open or unlocked. My car isn't that smart. Alfonso says, any Vegas trip plans in the future? They're getting an MLB team, the Athletics. So we got a new puppy, and so I feel like we can't really leave until the puppy's pretty well trained. So that's been keeping us from traveling lately. And then Alaska was going through some really hard times, like where it was getting harder and harder for her to walk. And then she was on the verge of death just like a week and a half ago. I thought we were going to lose her. She was fine one afternoon, and then a few hours later, she could barely move. Like, I've never seen her get so bad so fast. and I didn't think she was going to make it through the night. But we took her to the emergency vet, and they gave her some antibiotics and some other stuff. And then they ran some blood tests on her, but we didn't get the blood test results back right away. But that night she wasn't doing any better. By the morning, she was doing a little bit better, though. It turns out she had a bacterial infection, and they said it was probably something she's had for a while, but just wasn't showing any symptoms. And then all of a sudden, when she started showing symptoms, they progressed really rapidly. But now she's back to 100%. But anyway, I brought Laska up because I've been worried about traveling with Laska being in such a vulnerable state lately. Little Red says, do they have electric cars down there? There's some. You see some Teslas occasionally. And I know this guy who got like a new electric BMW. But it was kind of entertaining because he was so excited about it. And it was a really nice car, of course. But then, like, after a few days of having the car, he ran out of charge and got stranded because there isn't that great of electric vehicle charging around. Like, they need more of that infrastructure around. So he didn't have the availability to charge his car, and it ended up stranded just within a few days. Eddie asks, how old is Laska? She's 13 and a half now. EHC says, Querétaro is on my short list for cities to move to, narrowing down areas, and I think due to price and modern homes, we're considering Juriquilla, El Refugio, Zibata. Pros and cons, other similar areas. Okay, so Juriquilla is on the north end of the city. Zibata is like, it's kind of its own city, but it's kind of far away from stuff. And that's in the northeastern part. And then El Refugio is also in the northeastern part, but not as far away as Zibata. So of those, my personal favorite area to live in would be Juriquilla. There's just restaurants I like there. There's a nice dog park that I like. It's close to Antea Mall. There's just a lot of stuff around. El Refugio is probably going to be the cheapest of those three, just in general terms of like talking about the availability of all the housing. So yeah, El Refugio probably going to be your most affordable options. Zibata is nice. I do really like Zibata, and you get a lot of home for your money there. And there are a lot of restaurants up there that I like. There's some grocery stores, or there's a grocery store or two up there that I like as well. But if you want to go into like Centro or some other parts of the city, it's a bit of a drive. So it's kind of a trade-off, though. But if you like to golf, Zibata is where you need to be because it's the only public golf course here that you can just pay something like $45 and get on, or you go hit balls or whatever. But of those three, if I had to choose, I would pick Juriquilla, but that's just for my own preferences. But Zibata, you're going to get more home for your money than Juriquilla probably, and El Refugio is going to be the lowest cost of all. So that's kind of where you're at there between those three neighborhoods. And then other similar areas, honestly, there's a lot of them. I've been thinking about doing this video, but it would be kind of hard to do because there's like 50 neighborhoods around the city that I would live in, 50 that are all pretty nice. So I could like make a video giving people a rundown of all of them, like what to expect, what's there, what's the pros and cons of each thing. Sorry, I'm having my nose is a little bit itchy. Puppy pictures, please. Okay. Well, I have a video of our new puppy howling. He was learning to howl. I'll try to find that video really quickly for you. Okay, where are you, Clover? Clover, Clover, Clover. Where are you? Okay, here he is. He's just sitting there on the sidewalk howling. Thought that was funny. Franco says, I've always been told by extended family members that Guadalajara has the best medical centers in Mexico. Have you heard this? I have not heard that. It's a big city though. It's 6 million people there or something. So it wouldn't surprise me. I would expect the best to be in Mexico City since that's the biggest city, but I honestly don't know. Candace says, oh, the cutest. Oh, that's adorable. Yeah, I love that. Scott asked, where can you walk your dogs in Queretaro and avoid dog packs loose on the streets? So street dogs aren't super common here. Like if you get into the really low end neighborhoods here, yeah, you'll see some street dogs. But in the vast majority of neighborhoods here around Queretaro, you don't really have street dogs. So, I mean, and then like even if they're street dogs, doesn't mean they're going to be aggressive. Like probably 19 times out of 20 in my experience, street dogs are not aggressive. Of course, it's those few times that you worry about, those few times where they are. But basically anywhere, almost any neighborhood you're going to choose, you're going to have either a place inside of the neighborhood to walk around, sidewalks outside. There's likely going to be walking paths around there. There will probably be dog parks not too far away. There's also larger parks you can go to. You can go to Parque 2000, where they have this big old open area, and there's a lake there where lots of people go to walk their dogs. There's lots of nice parks around. I like going into the neighborhood of Santa Fe and Juriquilla. There's great sidewalks all around there and a dog park. I like Parque Jardines and Jardines de la Hacienda. Parque Carretas is also good. Going to the Cancun area soon. What are my best cell phone roaming options? Verizon Wireless. As for your best options, I would probably ask your carrier if you have coverage in Mexico, because I know T-Mobile does, and in that case, you just have to go into your phone settings and click data roaming on, and then you're going to have coverage here. I was using T-Mobile for a while in Mexico, and maybe Verizon has coverage here. If not, you could buy a SIM card. You can go into a convenience store here, like an OXXO, and get a Telcel SIM card. That will probably be about $5, and then you put like $15. You buy a package, a paquete for like $15, and you get a few gigabytes of data, like 5 gigs of data or so. If Verizon doesn't have coverage here for you. Alex says, hi, Jordan, your hair looks, sorry, I'm having some allergies. Hi, Jordan, your hair color looks lighter and different, is it? Well, maybe. I haven't noticed that, but my hair does get lighter when I spend more time in the sun. In the last couple of months here in Querétaro, the sun has been pretty darn hot. So maybe that's lightening up my hair color. Quiet zones. Are certain neighborhoods designated as quiet zones, or are they generally in gated communities? I don't think there's any certain neighborhoods that are quiet zones that aren't in gated communities, because like this, that doesn't really exist on a city level that I know of. In fact, Mexico can be pretty loud, but however, almost every single gated community will have some sort of restriction on when you can have parties. Like the one where we live in, you can't have like loud music playing or things like that after 11 p.m. I think it is. So yeah, it just depends on the community. But generally, like here in Querétaro, if you're paying at least 20,000 pesos a month in rent and you're not in Centro, that's a pretty good, you have a pretty good idea that it's going to be reasonably quiet where you're living. But it's generally the neighborhoods with the lower rents uh, that are louder. But when you get into like the 20,000 peso a month or higher range, and that's about $1,000 US or higher, then you're usually in a quiet area, with the exception of Centro, like the city center. There's very expensive rentals there, but it is very loud there also. And as a matter of fact, you'd be very lucky to get a place under 20,000 in Central. I've been home shopping, and like when I see homes pop up in Centro for rent, they're like 40,000, 60,000, 80,000 pesos, like 2,000 to $4,000 a month. So, yeah, if you're over 20,000 pesos a month and you're not in Centro, it's probably going to be a quiet area, at least here in Querétaro. How do you support yourself there financially? Making these videos. That's it. Do you talk to your immediate family? How do you deal with not seeing them for a long time? Yeah, I talk to them about once a week or so. And how do I deal with seeing them or not seeing them for a long time? It can get hard at times. Uh, I've most of my life I've been pretty independent, so maybe it was a little bit easier for me to deal with not seeing them for a long time than it might be for other people. Ooh, sorry, I didn't see this pop up until just now. I realized the software has made a change, and now any super chats pop up in a separate section from the live comments. So now that I know this, I know where to look for super chats. Uh, Taco, thanks for the $4.44 super chat. What's Jalapa like? Safe? So Jalapa, that's in the state of Veracruz. I I believe it's the capital. Uh, but I'm sorry, I haven't been there. So Veracruz is generally regarded as one of the more dangerous states in Mexico, or at least that was the case a few years ago. I'm not sure if it's gotten safer. Uh, it wasn't so long ago that I was in Orizaba, Veracruz, and I thought that was a I thought that was a very nice place, and I felt perfectly safe while there. But as for Jalapa, I'm sorry, I don't have a better answer for you. Maybe if someone in the chat is watching and knows about it, please leave a comment and let us know what the safety is like in Jalapa. Martha asks, so what did you do? Just rewind to about 3 minutes into the stream, and I tell you at that point. What towns with 20,000 people or less would you recommend? Ooh, that's that's kind of tough because I don't know how often I go to towns that are with populations less than 20,000 because most of them tend to have bigger populations than that. But just based off of like the top of my head, okay, Tapalpa in the state of Jalisco. So Tapalpa is this gorgeous mountain town. You have great hiking, incredible waterfalls around there, super pretty. Love it. And very, very affordable as well. And granted, pretty much every small town is going to be super affordable compared to a big city like Querétaro. Another one we went to recently was Huasca de Ocampo in the state of Hidalgo. So that was pretty cool as well. Another small mountain town. A lot of these small towns are up in the mountains. Like a lot of them are former mining towns. So uh, yeah, what I would look into if I were you are the magic towns around Mexico. They're called Pueblos Mágicos. And both Tapalpa and Huasca de Ocampo are both magic towns. Now, I'm not sure how many of these have a population of less than 20,000, but none of them are huge cities. They're not cities, they're all towns, right? Uh, so look into those. I don't think I've ever been disappointed by a Pueblo Mágico. Another one that comes to mind, although I do think it's over 20,000 in population, is in Yucatan, Valladolid. Valladolid is a really cool place. Incredible food there. Uh, but it does get really hot in the summer, so you have to be okay with hot temperatures, or you only go there in the winter. Taco with a $7.77 super chat. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate that. I love these. I love these numbers that you're sending. Uh, what departamento would you feel most secure buying farmland on? So departamento is the word for apartment. So I'm confused what you're asking here. But where would I feel most secure buying farmland? Uh honestly, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I don't have better answers to your questions tonight. I don't know a ton about farmland here. Uh, I would feel pretty comfortable buying land in the state of Querétaro, perhaps in the state of Jalisco. Uh, when you get further north, I don't think there's really farmland up there, like into Sonora and Sinaloa. But as you get like down to the past the top third of Mexico, then you get into more like farmland area. But yeah, I maybe start with Querétaro. If the question is asking like what state I would feel most secure buying farmland in. Henry, thanks for the super chat. Jordan, were you and Mai able to go see Canelo's fight in Guadalajara at the beginning of this month? By the way, will Mai be joining later? Oh, you're gonna kill me, Henry. But no, we should have gone. Uh, and Maya, I don't think is going to be on the stream tonight. She's just going to sleep early. She was feeling pretty tired today. We went to a wedding last night, so that was that was fun, but a little bit draining of energy. Okay, Taco asked what state. Yeah, so if the state is the question, with knowing minimal amount about farmland here in Mexico, I'd probably start with Queretaro. And Miguel says, "Oh, you mean state equals state?" Okay, I didn't know that. Oh. Are you feeling the effects of the Californian open border crisis? Uh, I actually don't know what this is. So no, I don't think so. If it's something that's been in the news recently, I don't really follow the news much. E-commerce, thanks for the $9.99 super chat. Hi, Jordan. Can you do more videos about safe stocks, crypto investments? For a lot of us not on Social Security, we need some type of foreign income. What ETF is safe for the upcoming recession? So I'm pretty passionate about this thing. So I spend a lot of time studying it. But when when the channel's about like living in Mexico, moving abroad, travel, things like that, finance is kind of outside of that realm. So I try not to do too much of it on this channel. I've been thinking about starting another channel for that specifically. But yeah, I sprinkle it in every now and then to try to share some of my knowledge without overwhelming people and like getting it to be too much. But I could potentially try to do more of that, and I'll answer your question here. What ETF is safe for the upcoming recession? Thanks. So in a recession, if there's some kind of liquidity crisis, every stock, everything that has a bid is going to be sold off temporarily, because just because there's a recession doesn't mean that there's going to be a liquidity crisis. But if there is a liquidity crisis, well, then nothing is safe, because the sales decision is not made by the holder of the stock. It's made by the margin clerk, and they need to make sure that the amount they lent out is safe. So what they do is they will automatically sell your positions at whatever someone has a bid in it for. So with that in mind, and nothing being safe from that, the quality companies will recover pretty quickly generally. So what ETF is safe for the upcoming recession? I would actually point you to one I mentioned in yesterday's video. It's called VYMI. So that's a Vanguard International Dividend Payers Fund. And basically it takes all the dividend paying companies from the international stock market, and it gets rid of the bottom 50%. So it's basically the top half of dividend payers. But something you have to worry about when it comes to companies or like various stocks that are paying a high dividend is that it's a value trap, that it's paying a high dividend because there's big problems with it. But what this ETF does, VYMI, it market cap weights the positions in there. So the bigger the market cap, meaning the more valuable the company is, the higher of a weight it has within the ETF. And what this does is, if a certain stock in there has deteriorating fundamentals because there's something wrong with the business, well, then it becomes less and less and less and less of a part of that ETF, meaning that if something goes really wrong with it, it doesn't affect the overall ETF very much. Now, I think this is going to be great for whether it's a recession, whether it's an inflationary environment, even an inflationary recession, because for a lot of reasons, what you want, especially in inflation, is when you want to own assets. People and companies who own assets are going to do very well in inflation, because what happens is the dollar becomes, or like the currency becomes less valuable, but all of the assets still remain the same. So even though their price may change, they still own all those assets. So they own those factories, they own the prime real estate, they own maybe it's like various shops that they own, different locations that they have. And when it's these companies that are all paying a good dividend payers are generally companies that have been around a long time. They're generally very well run. And there's accounting tricks you can do to make your net income look better or your sales look better. There's all sorts of tricks you can do for that. But companies can't really fake dividends, at least not for very long. So there's a saying that I like, is that a company paying dividends is like outward manifestations of inward grace. So I think dividend payers are one of your best bets for a recession, for inflation. And yes, it's possible that of course, it's almost certain that at some point the value of that ETF will decrease, like the price on the screen will decrease. But generally, when it's dividend paying companies, you'll still be getting that dividend every single quarter. And with Vanguard, all these Vanguard funds, which have some of the lowest fees, they also pay dividends quarterly. Some of them pay biannually or even annually. But I like that Vanguard is quarterly as well. So VYMI, that's the first one I would point almost anyone to. And a lot of domestic ETFs, there's a lot of danger there, because when you have a high value ETF, so I mean, by high value, I mean high PE ratio. Basically, the stocks are priced very high relative to their earnings. So when your PE ratio is at like 20, that's getting to be in a dangerous level. And when stock prices are going up, these ETFs that are market cap weighted have to buy more and more of the stocks that are going up in price. So that creates like a snowball effect, making them go up in price even further. But when the stock market goes down, the opposite thing happens. So as like these really overvalued stocks come down in value, the ETF have to sell them because they're market cap weighted. So if like a stock goes from $1 trillion to 500 billion, well, then they have to sell half of their position. Whereas, so there's that big risk in ETFs where there's a high PE ratio. But in like VYMI, the PE ratio is about 9. So that's not a 9 PE is generally regarded as pretty undervalued. And you don't have that same risk there that you have with those high flying, a lot of times they're tech stocks. So hopefully that gives you a decent answer. Taco, thanks for the 1111 lucky super chat. This tip is for ditching your old gal and getting this new gal. She's way better for you and makes this channel better too. I'm really happy with her. She's really great, and she's been a trooper being in the videos and has done really well there also. Your first Mexican boat. What did you think? Yeah, it was fun. We had a pretty good time. I just put banana bread in the oven, so I'm a captive audience for an hour. Nice. Gail asks, "Where's your wife?" She's not my wife yet, but she's going to sleep early tonight. She's pretty tired today. Yes, that's right. Kokalti says VYMI has gone nowhere in the past few years compared to the S&P 500, which was killing it. So when you're buying dividend-paying stocks, the valuations of the company generally aren't going to fluctuate a ton. Like they're not going to be those high flyers like the tech stocks you see go from $10 to $100 in a year. That just doesn't really happen with quality dividend-paying companies. So VYMI, that was a fund started in 2016. So from 2016 to 2023, 7 years, it's up 64%. So over those years, the average earnings from the companies within the ETF have gone up about between 7 and 8%. And over the long run, the stock price will reflect the earnings growth. Now, in the short run, like just a few years, anything can happen and markets can be very irrational. But generally, it's a good time to buy when something has been underperforming for a while. And when something has been overperforming for a while, that's generally a good time to sell. FDG, thanks for the $9.99 super chat. Really appreciate that. I don't see a comment here, so I'll look for another one from you in case you accidentally missed that. Do you think the AI stocks are creating a bubble or here to stay long term? I mean, I think there will be a lot of benefits to society from AI if AI doesn't destroy society. And certainly it will benefit a lot of companies, but I feel like lately it's just kind of the hot thing, and that's going to be short-lived. But I mean, you never know with bubbles. It's to me, it really seems overhyped right now, and anything talking about AI is going up in price. So I don't know. I just feel like it's another. I don't know how much of a bubble it's going to turn into, but it could be another tech bubble, NFT bubble, crypto bubble. Yeah. Baja California safe? As long as you get away from the border towns, I would say generally yes. But then you go down a little bit to Rosarito, Ensenada area. People have lots of problems with dirty cops there. Other than dirty cops, I would say yes, it's reasonably safe there. Maggie, thanks for the super chat and for being a channel member. Really appreciate that. We are signing the contract for our home in Aguas Calientes this week. Thanks to your many tips giving us the courage. Aguas Calientes is great. I think it's a super underrated city. And the people there are so nice. And for being a big city, it's pretty darn affordable too. I like it. I need to go back there. It's been a little while since I visited. Daniel says, what's the dumb thing you did? Just logging on now. Just rewind the stream so I'm not telling the story over to everyone who's already heard it. I think I started talking about that a little after the 3-minute mark. So just go back to 3 minutes and you'll see it not long after that. Benny asked, do you know if we need collateral to purchase a studio in Playa del Carmen? I'm from California. Generally, foreigners cannot get any type of loan here to purchase real estate. And if you're a foreigner who hasn't spent a long time building up Mexican credit history, you're going to have to pay for your real estate in cash. Well, bank transfer, but cash, like actually have that money in your bank account. Because a Mexican bank isn't going to lend to you without a Mexican credit history, and a US bank isn't going to lend against or lend to you for a home in Mexico. I mean, maybe you can get a personal loan, or like if you have a home in the US, take out a line of credit on your equity there and use that to purchase the home. But other than that, I don't think you're going to be able to finance that. At least it's pretty darn rare. What countries other than Mexico and the USA would you live in? Ooh, this is a tough one. I don't know. I need to travel more. I loved Portugal when I visited. Um, I haven't been to Ecuador, but I'm very curious to go. I've been to Peru. Sorry, I said that like in English and a Spanish accent at the same time. I've been to Peru. I don't think I would live there. Um, been to the Netherlands. I don't know if I'd want to live there either, but I did very much enjoy that visit. Panama. I've looked into it, and I don't recall all the reasons exactly, but I feel like I remember thinking, I don't know if that would be a great place for me. Peru is cool. Ecuador sucks. Peru is some of my favorite, perhaps my absolute favorite food I've ever had. I love the food there. But like going to Lima, that is probably the loudest place I've ever been in my life. I could not stand the noise there. Do you really not like Cancun? It's not that I don't like Cancun. There's things I don't like about it. I don't like all the scammers. I don't like how high pressure sales everything is there. I don't like the seaweed that you get there, but you can't deny how beautiful it is. It's absolutely gorgeous. So I like it for a vacation, especially if I'm paying for it with points. Otherwise, it can get really expensive. Uh, but that's like if I know how to not like deal with all the scams and stuff. But overall, I think Cancun is kind of overrated, and there's better beach destinations you can go to that you aren't going to have to deal with all the scams and crazy high pressure sales situations and the taxi drivers ripping you off all the time and rental car scams and basically all the scams that come along with Cancun. Have you ever been to Asia? Sadly, no, but I'd love to go. Peruvian ceviche is in a league of its own. Incredible. Couldn't agree more. I love Peruvian ceviche, and I've been trying to find a Peruvian ceviche that is as good as sorry, I can't talk. That is as good as I've had in Lima. And I've tried things on the menu called Peruvian ceviche probably a dozen different times across Mexico, and not a single time has it been even close, not even half as good as it was in Lima. Hang on, I just need to kill a bug here. Okay, got it. There's been lots of bugs in the house lately. So Mazatlan, I think that's a great option. Oh, there's a mosquito. Come near me, I dare you. How trustworthy is the mail service? I trust it 100%. So if you don't know, I put out a short video today talking about how I deal with mail in Mexico and how I get, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought, how I get like things that you can't get shipped here, sent here. Like for example, let's say I'm shopping on Amazon and there's a product that's a really good deal, but it doesn't ship to Mexico. Talked about that in there. How I get things like vitamins and supplements and medications here that you can buy online in the US, but you can't have shipped to Mexico because Mexico customs will confiscate it. So in that video, I talk about this mail service and then another service here that helps solve those problems. But that mail service, traveling mailbox, awesome. I cannot recommend that enough. Like they're really, really good. And I mentioned in the video, like I've never even considered canceling that, and I've had it the entire 5 years I've lived in Mexico. It's the best $150 I spend each year. Do you know any other languages? Just English and Spanish. And Spanish, it's still a work in progress, but I can get by. The trick is to make sure you tell them you are a local and you do not get scammed. And it would have to be a local from that area, though, not just a local Mexican, because all my Mexican friends that I talk to, when they go to Cancun, people try to scam them like crazy too, and they do fall victims to some of the scams as well. Sherry says, from someone who bought a little house, or no, from someone who bought a house in a little beach town in Baja on the Sea of Cortez, about 2.5 hours south of the border, I would recommend that you do not buy a house in a beach town. You do not own the house outright. You have to put it in a trust, a fideicomiso. It is very expensive to transfer or set up a trust, and you pay a yearly fee of about $600 to maintain it. Unless you are totally in love with a particular house, it's so cheap to rent here. You can find cute homes for $350 a month. I'm actually surprised about being able to still in 2023 find cute homes in a beach town for $350 a month. I would have thought the prices would be a bit higher than that by now. As for the fees to set up the trust, yeah, it can get expensive to set it up. It could be as little as like $1,500, I think, or as much as like $3,000, and then you have an annual fee due every single year. And I think you'd actually be lucky in 2023 to find one that would only cost $600 a year. I think more like for people who set it up a while ago, yeah, or it could be 600 or even less than that. But for people getting it today in 2023, I think more like $800 a year is more typical. Is VYMI less volatile than most stocks? Why is it a good investment? Yes, it's far less volatile than most stocks. Like good dividend paying companies in a recession will generally go down less, and then in a bull market they'll generally go up less. They're typically much less volatile than stocks that have no earnings or have some earnings, or like those that haven't been around a long time, or basically almost every single other stock. Yes, it's less volatile. Why is it a good investment? Because dividends are something you can't lie about, at least not for too long. And that's a collection of 1,000 of the best dividend paying companies around the world. But I think I answered this question fairly thoroughly over a little bit earlier, so I don't want to go into too much in depth into that. So if you could own a property near nature anywhere in Mexico, where would it be? So if you exclude beach destinations, there's just so many pretty beach destinations. So excluding those, maybe Tapalpa, Jalisco, or maybe where I went recently in Huasca de Ocampo in Hidalgo. That was really pretty as well. Oh, wait, you're talking about mail, M-A-I-L, not M-A-L-E. My bad. Stupid is never an adjective that I would use to describe you, Jordan. Well, even if I'm not stupid in general, I can still do stupid things. And that was one of them. What is the best romantic hotel in Puerto Vallarta that you recommend? I've only stayed in a couple of hotels in Puerto Vallarta, and they weren't romantic. So I'm sorry, I can't help you, but maybe someone else here can. Oh, but I did go get a day pass out at Miraval. It's not in Puerto Vallarta. It's at Punta Mita, which is about an hour drive away. Punta Mita is gorgeous, but the hotels are really expensive. Like a day pass, it was, I think, $75 for the day, and you could get unlimited drinks. And then you also got breakfast and lunch. It didn't qualify you for dinner. The breakfast was amazing. The drinks were good. But that hotel, if I wanted to stay there that night, it was like $600 that night. So yeah, Punta Mita can get really expensive, but it's so pretty there. I'm sure there's great hotels in Puerto Vallarta, and I am planning to go see some of them. Like I have some points saved up, and I think I'm going to be going to, or I think we're going to be going to the Puerto Vallarta all-inclusive Hilton there before too long. Now, an all-inclusive probably isn't going to be a romantic destination, at least not one like that. The Miraval, yes, I would say that, but when it's a cheaper all-inclusive, that's more of like a fun party atmosphere, typically, I think, and less of a romantic atmosphere. Why don't you answer my questions? Do you still pay U.S. taxes? Do you still pay U.S. taxes? As an American with a U.S. passport, you can't get out from the thumb of the IRS, not unless you renounce your citizenship. So yes, I do still have to pay U.S. taxes. There's ways I legally reduce my taxes, like my accountants have got me to qualify for the foreign earned income exemption. And also having an S Corp helps with it, because you can pay part of your income out as salary and take part of it as distributions. So that helps lower taxes by not having all of your income subject to Medicare and Social Security. So there's ways to legally reduce the taxes, and I try to take advantage of some of those ways, or what I can, like not having access to super expensive accountants and lawyers, but just like basic accountants and lawyers. But yes, I still pay quite a lot in U.S. taxes. Sherry says my closing costs were about 9,000 and most of it was for the trust. Most of that was for the trust? Dang. I closed in 2022. Oh, so pretty recently. And the annual fee was only about 600. Yes, at least in this town, there are casitas and apartments from 350 to 600. And every place you live is not far from the sea. Okay, cool. I'm guessing that it's a relatively unknown place then. Hi, Jordan. Are prenups common in Mexico? Can you have a prenup that is valid in both Mexico and the US? By the way, thanks for the super chat earlier. Are prenups common? So marriages work differently here. Basically, when you get married, you can either choose that you split all your assets evenly or that each person in the marriage just owns what's in their name. So there's that. As for prenups, I don't know. That's something that I have not looked into. Robert says, I've left my door open too, and that exact thing, same deal, nothing missing there. The car wash guys always look out though, if they're honest. That is. Yeah, there were no car wash guys there when that happened, or when I did that. But there were like the cart guys who collect the carts throughout the parking lot. Victor asks, Jordan, how do you deal with the fluctuating exchange rate? Do you exchange money monthly? What do you think is the smartest way to exchange money from dollars to pesos? So basically, this is what I do. When the dollar is stronger, and I don't try to pick the highs or pick the lows or anything like that, just generally, hey, if I see, hey, the exchange rate hasn't been this good in a month, or it hasn't been this good in 3 months or 6 months or a year, well, then I'll go to the ATM and withdraw some money, or I'll go on my Wise account and convert some dollars into pesos. So I'll do that when I see those temporary highs, like when I see that, hey, this is the best exchange rate we've seen in a month. I'll convert some dollars into pesos. Then if it gets even better, I'll convert more. And if it gets better, I'll convert more and more and more. The better it gets, the more I'll convert. And in times like this, where we're at a low for the dollar, like it's as low as it's been in 5 years, I just pay my expenses here as it goes. I haven't converted anything. So right now I have like no extra cash that I've taken out. Now, if we see a reversal and the dollar starts going back up, yeah, I'll take some cash out or transfer some in my Wise account. And those are two ways that I generally get dollars converted into pesos without taking too much of a hit on the fees. Are the migration documents difficult to live in Mexico? No, there's a little bit of bureaucracy, but you just pay a facilitator to help you. It's going to cost you like a few $100s in addition to what you have to pay the Mexican government. So maybe you're looking at $600 or $700 total, depending on whether you're getting temporary or permanent residency or what. Pretty straightforward, especially if you use one of those facilitators. And yeah, it's a pretty easy process. But that's if you have someone helping you. If you don't have someone helping you, it can get frustrating. So I would definitely recommend just finding an immigration facilitator in whichever city you're planning to move to in Mexico, and hire that person to help you through the process. It'll save you a lot of headaches. Now, if you can't afford a few hundred extra dollars, you can get by without it, but you may be spending some more of your time to go through the process. You may have to take a few more trips to the immigration office here because you screwed something up and you didn't know how something was supposed to be done. You screwed something up on one of the forms you filled out, so then you have to come back the next day. There's a lot of things that can go wrong if you're doing it yourself, even if you speak Spanish. Fabiola asks, do you like Merida to live? Merida is a great city. There's a lot I love about Merida. I would live there in the winter. For me, I can't stand that heat and humidity in the summer. Now, I haven't been there in the summer, but I've been in the Riviera Maya in the summer, like in the Cancun area. And people say Merida is even worse with heat and humidity. So I don't think I could do that, or at least I wouldn't like it. I mean, yes, I could physically do it and I would live, I would survive, but I wouldn't like it. Your skin is looking particularly good tonight. Do you have any tips for not having your skin dry out when living at high altitude? What have you been doing, Jordan? Uh, Nothing. Well, I mean, I guess I went to a dermatologist and she recommended some things, but it wasn't specifically for skin drying out. I just had this like cyst that was growing under my skin here, and I was actually going to get it removed, but uh, basically I did some of what she told me to do. I wasn't a very good patient, but basically I went and saw her. She's like, okay, you're going to do this for a month or two, and then you're going to come back, and then I'm going to remove this because right now it's too big, and I need you to get it smaller. I need to get it smaller before I remove it. Otherwise, it's going to leave too big of a scar. So you're going to come back, and we're going to remove it. Well, I did part of what she told me to do, and didn't do about half of it. Came back, and she couldn't find the cyst anymore. She was pretty surprised that it seemed like it was gone, and she said that happens in about 10% of cases. But at that next visit, she gave me a couple more things, including a face wash. It's this blue liquid. I forget what the brand is, but she has me using that every day, and that's basically it. That and unscented original Dove soap to wash my face. Ray says, hello, Jordan. Are you going to do a video about all this industrial boom happening in Monterrey and also about the Maya train? So in terms of Monterrey, we were thinking about going there soon. I don't know what the video would look like there, but we'd like to go to Monterrey soon. It's a place that I haven't really been. I say I haven't really been because I've driven through it. That's it. So I can't really say I've been there, even though I technically have been within the city limits. David asks, hey, Jordan, have you done an episode lately about your annual budget expenses there in Queretaro? No, it's been a long time since I've done that, but I should do that. Thanks for the suggestion. Maggie says, the biggest hassle is the appointment at the consulate in the US. Mine is coming up, and I'm going to McAllen, Texas for it. So much paperwork to assemble. I have a facilitator in Aguascalientes for the canje. And the canje is the process where basically you continue the process after going to the Mexican consulate in the country where you're from. But yeah, there can be a decent amount of paperwork to get together, especially if like your name doesn't line up perfectly on all your documents. It could be pretty straightforward, and you may be able to go to a consulate near where you live if you have the income or the savings to show. And if you don't, well, maybe you need to travel a little bit to go to a consulate that's a little bit more friendly, like McAllen, Texas is known to be. If the Mayans did it without air conditioning, you can do it without air conditioning. Uh, could I? Yes. Would I like it? No, I would not. One more question. What city would you say is the most welcoming city in Mexico for US citizens? Uh, Hands down, Mazatlan. I felt so welcome there. The people loved having foreigners there. Everyone we talked to was so excited that we were there to visit. Felt like they really wanted the tourism. Apparently, Maya isn't sleeping yet. She came out of the room and blew me a kiss. But yeah, when we went to Mazatlan, I couldn't believe how friendly the people were there and so welcoming. And they want tourism there, and they haven't gotten much of it. So they were all very, very happy to see us. Fabiola asked, do you have any kind of insurance in Mexico? I have car insurance, and I should have health insurance, but I haven't bothered to get that yet. Now, I need to just do it because like the only thing holding me back is just going through the process. But Mai has private health insurance, and I should get it too. She has like a 20% deductible that she has to pay. So ideally, I would like a little bit lower deductible than that in case something catastrophic happens. Now, a lot of people choose to go without health insurance, and I have up until this point, because generally, unless something catastrophic happens, it's just reasonably affordable to go to the hospital, go to the emergency room. Like, for example, a few years back, like 3 years ago, I had to go to the emergency room 3 different times. I had like an electrocardiogram done. They did a ultrasound on my organs, and they ran some blood tests, lots of tests, and 3 visits to the emergency room. The total cost was less than $300. So, I mean, unless something really bad happens, like, for example, we know someone who had to have emergency heart surgery, and that without insurance was like $5,000. And if you didn't have that $5,000, you had to go to the public hospital where the lines are longer. You're not going to have the best surgeons because the best surgeons are going to be working in a private hospital. Generally speaking, of course, there's going to be occasionally good surgeons at the public hospitals, but generally speaking, like private hospitals for better care than the public hospitals. But yeah, various surgeries can get pretty expensive, and you might want insurance for that. Like, especially if you get into a major car crash or something like that. Going back to your hometown someday, it'd be nice to see your roots. Yeah, that would be cool. I might have put that in part of a video. I forget what video that would have been. What's your vehicle situation? We have a vehicle. I haven't shared what it is. I've just like kind of trying to keep that private. So like that and where we're living, I try to keep private. So we're not recognized everywhere, or people don't know where exactly it is that we're living. But yeah, we got a vehicle a while back. When was that? Like in August of 2022 or something like that. Maybe July. I forget exactly what month it was. But yeah, we bought a car at that point, and we've been using that one car for everything since. How do you take all of your house stuff to Mexico? Any moving company helped you? Actually, no. I hardly brought anything to Mexico. Everything I own fit in one large suitcase and one small suitcase. Now, I had to sell a lot of stuff, and it was really, really hard to get down to the point where I only had that much stuff left. But basically, it was a year of selling stuff every day, or was it 6 months? Anyway, it wasn't enough time. Whether it was 6 months or a year, I'd need to give myself more time and work harder sooner. But yeah, OfferUp, the app OfferUp was a huge help for selling everything. And yes, I could have gotten rid of everything a lot quicker just by having a yard sale or something like that. But a yard sale is good for getting rid of stuff quickly, or donating it is good for getting rid of stuff quickly. And I did donate a lot of stuff in the end, but I needed the money, so I had to sell it. So OfferUp was great for selling a lot of stuff and getting a decent amount back from what I originally paid for each item. And it's super easy to lift stuff on there. Highly recommended. It's free to use. There are premium features you can pay for. Like if you have a more expensive item, like for example, I went to sell my car and I paid to have a premium listing on there. I forget what it was at the time, maybe like $10. And it helped sell the car super quickly. And I did that with a mountain bike as well. So higher priced items, it might be worth looking into a premium listing, but for most items, just a free listing is going to be good enough for you. At least with the way it worked when I was using it 5 years ago. Connie says, when you use air conditioning, you better have the income to pay your electricity bill. Yeah, they can get expensive. So that's why in a recent video I mentioned a lot of people getting solar panels because especially if you live in a hot destination like a beach destination, those electric bills can get really high. Like you even hear people with electric bills of $1,000. Now electric bills are served every 2 months, so that's $1,000 over 2 months, but still $500 a month is a lot of freaking money. I think the most expensive electric bill I ever had. Actually, the most expensive electric bill I ever had was bullshit because it was like $400 for 2 months. But that was a month when I hardly used any electricity. It was just like a false reading by CFE, and I was never able to get it reversed. Like I had to pay it because my electric bill went from being 400 pesos a month to 400 pesos every 2 months to 4,000 pesos just for that one billing period. And I had to pay that, and it was BS. But yeah, if you live in a hot place, it can be expensive. So a lot of people will put on solar panels because if you have a really high electricity bill, that's like a couple $100s. Well, then there's a pretty good pretty fast payback period on solar panels, and you can change it to your electric bill being $3 every 2 months instead of a few hundred, because 50 pesos is like the minimum charge, which is a little less than $3. Well, just took my banana bread out of the oven. Smells so good. I'm drooling. I'm jealous. I love banana bread. Since you are a U.S. citizen, are you still stuck paying U.S. healthcare? Nope, I'm not. Speaking of public hospitals, need to get caught up on comments here. But public hospitals give no care whatsoever. It's a horror show there. Yeah, there's a lot of people who've had bad experiences at the public hospitals, at least at like the general hospital. Maybe a place like Eames is better, where it's still technically like public insurance, but it's like a step up from like the general public hospital. 5K and you have to get your own blood for the surgery. Can you buy blood here, or is that something that you have to find friends to donate for? I'm not sure. Yard sales basically giving stuff away. Yeah. Yeah. And people going to yard sales generally aren't willing to pay very much for the money. But if you're listing each item one by one, well, then you can get a pretty decent amount for it. And if you have a house full of stuff or an apartment full of stuff, well, then uh, I think you could pretty easily get like $10,000 for all your stuff. I think most people don't realize how much stuff they actually have. I don't know if this is true where you live, but here in San Felipe, Baja, the government subsidizes 75% of our electric bills in the summer. My electric bill has never gone above $36, and I run AC most of the summer. Consider yourself lucky because, yes, there's subsidies for electric bills in most places, but that's for the users who don't use much. Um, but, like, basically, if you only use a little bit of electricity, your price per kilowatt hour is super low. But as you use more and more electricity, your price per kilowatt hour gets higher and higher and higher. So the graph of like what your electric bill looks like is like if this is how many kilowatt hours you use and this is the price, the graph looks like this. So it goes up at a very steep hockey stick angle as you use more and more and more. So that's how you can get $1,000 electric bill. But yeah, typically on our electric bills, it will be like, you received a subsidy of this amount this month. Occasionally I'll get into, sorry, I hit the microphone. Occasionally I'll get into the section where I'm not getting a subsidy anymore. But yeah, most of the time I am. But here, you don't really need AC or heat. So I have this little fan. And this house gets pretty hot that we're in. It's one of the reasons why we want to move. Because we have these huge floor-to-ceiling windows with this, and the windows go up like it's a double height ceiling, and there's no curtains or anything on them, and it gets so hot in here because of those windows. But this little fan saves me. Still dating the physical therapist? Yep. Yeah, we're still together. Jesse, thanks for the super chat. Do you have any knowledge if trans people or of trans people being safe or targets in Mexico? I'm hesitant to come down because of targets. There's no support. So I don't have a lot of knowledge about this. I've never heard of trans people being targeted, but also I think it's less common to be openly trans here than in the U.S. I've seen meetups for this before, but I don't know. Maybe there's Facebook groups and where you could ask this, and maybe there's some people who have personal experience because I do not, unfortunately. Sherry asked, just curious if you know what kinds of things are covered and not covered under the basic Mexican healthcare plan. I'm permanent resident, but haven't signed up for healthcare yet. So I assume you're talking about the public health insurance that you can get. That's called IMSS, or what people here say EAMS. And basically most stuff is going to be covered. Occasionally you'll run into some expensive medication that isn't covered under EAMS. But for example, recently, someone we know was needing, what do you call it when your kidneys are going bad? Dialysis. She needed dialysis, and she was getting dialysis, and that was all covered by EAMS. But there was someone else who needed this medication, And this medication was about $500 a month, and it wasn't covered under EAMS. So you might run into situations like that. As for private healthcare, if you get private health coverage, basically anything that isn't a pre-existing condition. And I'm not sure if EAMS covers pre-existing conditions, but it's not like they do a background check to check for it. They'll ask you what you have, and then everyone will be like, just say you don't have anything wrong with you. Now, is that morally acceptable? Well, you'll have to make that decision. But I've heard that advice many times. Someone responding to Jesse about asking about trans, like whether it's safe to be trans in Mexico, and says you will be very welcomed in Puerto Vallarta, gay friendly, very. Yeah, Puerto Vallarta, absolutely no problem. I feel totally confident agreeing with this person here. Rachel says, loved your recent videos on 10 reasons to buy and 10 reasons not to buy real estate. We are in San Miguel and it gave us something to think about, leaning towards a big no now. Yeah, that's something I always try to do on this channel. I always try to give both sides of everything. I try to talk about the good and the bad, the pros and the cons. Of course, there's trade-offs for every decision. I think there's very good reasons for buying a home in Mexico, and I think there's very good reasons for not buying a home in Mexico. And you look at all of those, you weigh them against your personal needs, your personal preferences, and make a decision from there. But thanks for watching both those videos. If the rest of you haven't seen those yet, go check them out. They're a couple of the most recent videos on the channel. Basically, it's the reasons why I would buy, and then a separate video on the reasons why I wouldn't buy a home. Jordan, where's Mai? She's up in the room, I think. She came out for a little bit and was talking to Alaska down there. Talking about getting all your bank statements together. I had a pile this thick of my various bank statements because I have personal accounts with 3 different banks in the US. Then I have a business bank account and I have a 401k. Is that all? Am I remembering all of them? And then I have a Roth IRA, so I had that print out separately, and a brokerage. So brokerage, Roth IRA, 401k, 3 bank accounts, 3 personal bank accounts, 1 business bank account. I had 7 accounts that I had to have 12 months of statements for. So yeah, big fat stack of papers. And then when I got there, she threw away the 6 smallest accounts. Be like, okay, I'll just look at this one because this is your biggest balance. I was like, seriously? I went through so much work, like putting those all in order, stapling them together, paper clips and all this organization. And then she's just like, oh, I'm not even going to look at these lower balance accounts. Oh. Sherry asks, are you currently living in Queretaro? Do you recommend it for a senior person over 60 who is youthful and healthy? Is there a big retirement population there? Are you currently living in Queretaro? Yes, I am. Do you recommend it for a senior person over 60? Yeah, I mean, I think I would recommend it for anyone who wants a safe place to live where it's going to be much cheaper than living in most places in the US and Canada. And is there a big retirement population here? Yeah, yes and no. I say that because yes, there are like a lot of US, Canadian, Australian, German, like there's a lot of retirees from quite a few different countries, but the city's pretty big, so they're spread out. So it's not like if you go to a restaurant, for example, unless it's in Centro, that restaurant is probably going to be filled with all Mexicans there dining with you. Now, if you go to a restaurant in Centro, you're going to have more gringos, but there's also meetups and stuff. So if you're searching for those others who are in your age group, coming where you're coming from, yes, there's going to be those, but you'll probably want to find meetups in like a Facebook group or something like that. My friend had a leg removed due to diabetes at a good private hospital. They came out in the middle of the surgery requesting more blood, and his buddy had to run get it. That's such a foreign concept to me. Huh. That's surprising. Hmm. There's no need for private insurance in Mexico. Private healthcare is a sixth of the price of medical care in the US. And I would actually argue in many cases it's significantly less than that. Like I've had experiences that were 1/10, even 1/100th of the price. Uh, like I went to see a cardiologist. I was able to get in with him in like an hour and a half after booking the appointment, and it was $40 for that appointment. How much is it to go see a cardiologist for an hour in the US? I don't know, but I'm guessing it's more than $400, so more than 10 times the amount. Brendan says, I'm very happy to see Alaska recovered. I honestly didn't think she would, but very glad to see she has done so well. Yeah, she was so bad. I didn't think she was going to make it. I thought she was going to die that night. But thankfully we got her antibiotics quickly, and it ended up being a bacterial infection, so the antibiotics worked against it. And now she's back to 100%, or at least like 100% of what she can be at age 13 and a half. But I think any sickness these days is getting harder for her to recover from. But yeah, she's doing well. Just wondering if one of your bank accounts is a Charles Schwab account. It is. I have a brokerage and a checking account with them, and I cannot recommend them enough. I also do, and I also recommend them. They are fabulous. The best part is they reverse all ATM fees at the end of the month. Yes, I like that. And I like that they don't charge any ATM fees. So not only do they reverse all ATM fees that other banks charge, if I go to a Scotiabank ATM, if I go to a Bancomer ATM, if I go to a BBVA ATM, they charge no fees, and then they refund all the fees as well. And then there's no account minimums, there's no monthly maintenance fees, there's none of that bullshit. So I like that as well. Mexico loves their paperwork. Copies and copies for everything. Oh, yeah. And then, like, if you have an appointment at some Mexican office, you got to bring copies yourself. If they need a copy of something, you have to have that in advance because they don't make copies there for you. So in a lot of cases, you'll see a copy place or like a papeleria or someplace that will make copies set up right next to a government office so people can get that done. Jay asked, do you use any travel or mileage credit cards and do you recommend it? If you pay off your credit cards in full every single month, yes. Yes, they're amazing. If you don't pay your credit cards off in full every month, I don't think no matter how good the credit card is, no matter how good the points and rewards are, it's probably not going to be worth it for you. Because like when you pay it off every month, you get between a 20 and 50-day interest-free loan on every single purchase. But if you don't pay your full statement balance, well, then starting right then, if you're running a balance, your interest starts getting charged the day of your purchase. There is no interest-free loan anymore. And those interest rates are really high. But some of the cards I recommend the most, the Chase Sapphire Reserve, if you can get it, is a really great one. With Chase, you can collect a whole bunch of points and you can transfer them to Hyatt. And I really like having Hyatt as a transfer partner because you can get a lot of value from Hyatt. I would also recommend the American Express, what's it called? Hilton Aspire card. This is the top level card for Hilton. So it comes with a pretty significant annual fee of $450, but that's easily made up for with all the benefits you get. Number one, you get priority pass lounge access. So the priority pass membership alone is over $500. So if you've never flown with lounge access, it makes travel days so much better. So you get that. In addition to that, you get a free night reward every single year. And with that free night reward, you can pretty much stay at any Hilton in the world. So I used a free night reward at the Waldorf Astoria Cancun. And then because I had that Hilton Aspire card that also gives me automatic diamond status. Diamond is top tier in Hilton. And because of that diamond status, my $700 a night room got upgraded to a $1,900 a night room. So that free night reward this past year was worth $1,900 for me. And remember, this is on a credit card with an annual fee of $450. So priority pass, lounge access, annual free night. In addition to that, you get a $250 airline credit every year. So this is going to cover things like bag fees, upgrade fees, like fees if you're paying for the airline or paying for your flight with points, the fees to cover all the taxes on it. And then you also get a $250 credit at a Hilton resort. So that's $500 in credits, the priority pass, the free night reward. This is easily well into a couple $1,000s worth of benefits. And then there's many other benefits in addition to that, but those are the four big ones. And then the Capital One Venture X is a really good one. Again, it has a pretty high annual fee, but easily made up for with credits. If you want one that doesn't have an annual fee, like there's options like that. You want to find one that has no foreign transaction fees if you like traveling abroad or if you're living in Mexico, because if a credit card has foreign transaction fees, it ruins it for you because it adds 3% to every charge. So most travel branded credit cards have no foreign transaction fees. I'm personally right now trying to get lots of Hilton points to have like some dream vacation kind of things like we did at the Waldorf Astoria Cancun. So for that, I would go with the no annual fee Hilton card. You get 3 Hilton points on every dollar purchase, no foreign transaction fees. You get first level status in Hilton. But yeah, those are a few good options for you. The CSR, yeah, that's what the Chase Sapphire Reserve is abbreviated to. The Chase Sapphire, there's another Chase Sapphire that's also really good as well. Chase Sapphire Preferred is what it's called. Lower annual fee, not as good of benefits. Zilla says, I had the Delta Sky Miles on Amex and it sucked. There's some Delta cards on Amex. Well, there's one Delta card on Amex that I would get. That would be a good fit for me, I think. And that is the Delta Gold card, which is there's four in the tier, or there's 4-tier status. Blue is first with no annual fee. Then it's Gold, which is the cheapest one that has an annual fee. And then you have Platinum and then the Delta Reserve. The Gold one basically gets you an extra free check bag for you and everyone else traveling with you on every Delta flight you take. So that's great. And it's only an annual fee of like $99. And then you also get, there's quite a few benefits that come with it, like priority boarding and then some other Delta benefits. I think that's a pretty good card. The other 3 in that lineup aren't worth it for me. Jesse, thanks for the super chat. You think Venture X over Venture? To be honest, I'm not super familiar with what the Venture rewards are. The Venture X gets you access to all the Capital One lounges, you and 2 guests. It gets you priority pass. Something great about the Venture X is you can add additional users at no charge. And all of them get priority pass as well. So you not only get lounge access, all of your additional users, if you trust other people in your family to have a card that they just have and don't spend on, another mosquito, they all get priority pass as well. It's a $395 annual fee, if I remember right. But then you get a $300 annual travel credit, which is really easy to use. And also you get a 10,000 bonus miles every year, which is worth at least $100. And then it's a really good point earner. You get lots of miles quickly that you can redeem for great, like international first class flights with layback seats, things like that. Those points are great for that. It's a really good earner, no foreign transaction fees, really good purchase protection, all sorts of things like that. Great card, great value. Not super familiar with the Venture, but if it's in the same line as Venture X, I would assume that one's pretty good as well, just not the high-end perks like the lounge access. Was the other card with the amazing benefits a Hilton card? The one I was talking about was the Amex Hilton Aspire card. That's the top of the line Hilton card with Amex. And yeah, if I had to pick one single travel credit card, I would go with that card. In fact, there's some people who carry 3 Amex Hilton Aspire cards. They have 3 of the same credit card because that annual free night benefit is worth it. And then you get $500 worth of credits that if you can use, can make that very valuable to have. Henry, thanks for the super chat. Are there any plans for you and Maya to explore Baja California this year? Any conferences you'll be attending? What's the plan for the rest of 2023? Okay, so our new puppy's at school right now. So this is our chance to do some traveling for like the next 4 weeks. And then, well, hopefully after that, he's pretty well trained. And then maybe we can travel after that too. But right now he's at school. So we want to make a couple trips. So we were thinking Monterrey. We were thinking Valquirico in the state that doesn't exist, Tlaxcala. If you aren't familiar with Valquirico, this place is insane. It's one of the pueblos mágicos, the magic towns around Mexico. There's about 130 of them. And this town, it's like it's a medieval town transported to Mexico. It's super cool. I would have never thought there was anything like it here. So those are two places we're thinking about going soon. We would also love to go back to Hidalgo. It's pretty easy to get to. So going to Baja, it's a little further away. Like there, we're going to have to fly to. We're going to have to fly there. We won't be able to bring Alaska, and Alaska's old age. I'm getting really nervous about leaving her at home. Even though we do have a house sitter that we hire to come over and stay here with her and is really good with her. But I don't know. I want to be with Alaska. What credit cards gives you VIP? Sorry, I kind of cut that answer off short. But do I plan on traveling to Baja California this year? I would really love to. Right now, Alaska's pretty healthy. So if it stays like this, how she is right now, I would feel comfortable leaving. That's just the biggest consideration right now. Can I leave Alaska or not? But back to this question. What credit card gives you VIP Mexico airport lounge access? So any card that gets you priority pass is going to get you pretty good access in lounges around Mexico. So priority pass is basically going to be all of those more premium credit cards I named. The Hilton Amex Aspire priority pass, you got it. Chase Sapphire Reserve. Even like that gets you priority pass as well. The Venture X. The Venture X is the cheapest card, the cheapest annual fee that still gets you priority pass. And plus, like I mentioned, you can add additional users for free and they all get priority pass as well. So that's really great. So like that's going to get you lounge access in pretty much every airport around Mexico. But it doesn't get you into the American Express lounges in the Mexico City airport, and those are the best lounges in Mexico. So you go in there, you get a full meal for free. You can bring 2 guests in with your card. They don't have but you have to get the Amex Platinum card, and that's harder to justify. It's $695, but they're the best lounges in Mexico. And with that $695, you do get a bunch of credits. So if you can use those credits, it gets easier to justify them. But some of them you have to be in the US to use. Like, for example, you get an Uber credit every month, but you can't use the Uber credit abroad. You have to be in the US to use it. Jesse, thanks for the super chat. Do you have any thoughts on which might be better for a retiree, Merida or San Miguel? So San Miguel is a popular place for retirees, but it tends to be the very wealthy retirees who move there. So I know a few retirees who live in San Miguel, and every one of their homes costs at least $1 million. And that's it's a more expensive place, especially the real estate. If you want like one of the like Mexican style homes in the central area. So I think that's kind of one reason why the wealthier Americans and Canadians sometimes tend to choose San Miguel. San Miguel, great weather year round. Very culturally rich, centrally located. Merida, not great weather year round. I like the winters there. If you're used to like Texas weather, South Florida weather, you're going to be fine in Merida. If you grew up in Minnesota like me, Merida's going to kill you. But pretty much every house there has a pool, at least every house that the expats are renting. You get a lot more home for your money there. Your money's going to go so much further in Merida than it will in San Miguel. But if you get a house with solar panels, you get a house with a pool, you can run your AC without worrying about crazy electric bills. You, when it gets too hot, you jump in the pool. Uh, there's ways to survive the heat there. And then you're a half hour away from the beach in Progreso. So if I had to choose one, I would choose Merida. And that's just for the money reason, just because it's going to be cheaper. And I really like Merida as a city. Sherry says, if you and my ever wish to visit San Felipe in Baja, please be my guest in my gorgeous beach house, no charge while I travel. You can bring Laska. I am walking distance to the town. You will love it. Oh, that's so kind of you, Sherry. Thanks so much. Really appreciate that. Cocalte, how do you compare U.S. women to Mexican women, the good and the bad? There, in the U.S., there's a lot of women my age I feel like are kind of like taught growing up to hate men. I didn't like that aspect. Whereas in Mexico, I feel like in general, the women here still appreciate men. Um, I don't know. Like where I grew up, I felt like there were a lot of good women there. Like where I grew up in Minnesota. Where I was living in Arizona, I felt like it was harder to find a good woman, or at least the kind of woman I was looking for. But I don't know. I tend to like the values and such that Mexican women have. I made a video on dating in Mexico and what's it been like dating here versus like dating in the US. And I go into a lot more depth there. So if you're interested in a more in-depth answer, I recommend you check out that video. Found a gorgeous artist home in San Miguel for 130 when I was there. I wasn't in the position to buy at that time, but there's much cheap real estate there still. Okay. Yeah, I'm guessing you got to get away from the central area, the historic center, to find something like that, because pretty much everything I've seen in the like anywhere near the parroquia is $1 million. Like for example, I went to one person's house there, and they have a view of the parroquia up on that's like the main church in the central. They have a view of that. They're up on a little hill. It's not a huge house. It was only 3 bedrooms, but it was nice and it was in a gated community, and it was $1.9 million for 3 bedroom house. Hmm. Joe says Mexican women don't require you to be tall, but they will expect you to pay for almost every part of their life. I feel like a lot of women in the US have, at least my age, have pretty unrealistic standards. Like, it's like they want a guy who's 6 feet tall, makes six figures, has a six pack, like basically all the sixes, right? Uh, and I don't know. I get really annoyed when, like, I'm trying to be nice, like be a gentleman there, and it was becoming more and more frequent where someone like, typically my age would get mad at me when I like open the door for them or something. It's like, are you serious? Like that just it pisses me off to no end. Whereas here, like the women, they'll I think in general they do expect the man to provide for them, and I have no problem with that. But I mean, like they let men be men and be that gentleman who opens the doors for them, who does nice gestures and isn't getting pissed off over things like that. Teresa says we should ask Maya what the difference is between dating a Mexican man versus an American man. Yeah, you could ask her when she's on here in the future. Be very careful with any valet parking. Oftentimes, valet will drive your car a distance away from the restaurant. If they get in an accident, your insurance will not cover it. You risk it. On the ticket you typically get from valet, it says that their insurance covers it. But literally the day we got our car, dropped it off at valet, and they hit the bumper. The day we got the car, I was so mad. uh, and then like they tried to claim they didn't do it. Like we literally just bought the car. I had seen it from every angle, and I knew what scratches it had, what scratches it didn't have. It was definitely them. And the ticket says their insurance covers the damage, but he was like, "No, it wasn't us." And then after I insisted, "Yes, it was," like, and he's like, "Just come back tomorrow and we'll buff it out." But it was frustrating. You know, actually, I have an air tag on my keys now. When I leave my car key with valet, I have an air tag so I can see if it stays in the parking lot. Because after finding out about that new scam or that new way of theft where they'll just steal something from your car that you won't notice right away, like an airbag or a speaker or something. Uh, well, like after that, I want to make sure my car is staying there and they're not taking it somewhere else that where they could do something like that. If I eat tamales during this live stream, will that make me Mexican? Yes. I love random questions like this. It's best to have a camera in your car if you use valet. Yeah, that'd be great. I was actually thinking about that the other day, about the possibility of adding a camera. Well, do you have any other questions for me? I'm caught up on questions here, and if you don't get more coming in soon, I'll probably call it a night. Leah says dash cam would be a great idea. Do you Trey asked, do you see much provocative clothing in non-tourist areas? So in Mexico, generally in like the central part of Mexico, it's more conservative, like in terms of dress, the way people dress, like specifically talking about women. And if you go to beach destinations, you'll see a lot more things like swimsuits and short shorts, things like that. But I've noticed that the younger women and girls, they are starting to wear a lot more provocative clothing, or like maybe I shouldn't say provocative, like revealing clothing. So showing more cleavage, wearing shorter shorts, wearing shirts that show some of their stomach, things like that. Uh, you see a lot, especially with young girls, like teenage girls, all the time. But even getting into like mid to late 20s, I think that's becoming more common in these more in these cities where it's generally more conservative dress. Sherry asks, what have you heard about American women dating Mexican men? I've heard most Mexican men cheat, and I've had a few married Mexican guys hitting on me. So I don't know a lot about this, but what I can tell you is that there's a lot of sex motels around. And these sex motels are like, I've never actually been to one, but from what I hear, you drive your car in and you park it. Like there's no parking lot. You basically park it in your room in an enclosed garage. And then you go directly from the garage into the room. And these sex motels are all over the place. So I would assume, I mean, there's clearly a market for them. They're clearly used because there wouldn't be so many if they weren't. And to me, it seems like it's used in the cases where there's cheating going on or they need to keep it secret for some reason. But I'm very curious to go to these and see what they're like firsthand. Henry, thanks for the super chat. Would you and Mai ever consider having a group trip with your subscribers? Also, how often do you guys meet up, or how often do you guys meet subscribers and other travel YouTubers? Would we ever consider a group trip? Yeah. Like, so I'm not an organizer or a planner. So hopefully, like doing that, I could either get someone else who's the organizer and the planner, or like do it at, I've thought about doing it with a cruise where basically like the cruise provides their own entertainment and plans and things like that, or at like an all-inclusive. So cruise or an all-inclusive, that would be an easier way to go about it, a way that I could go about it without like having like lacking the planning skills that I lack. Or maybe partnering with someone who's good at that stuff, and then like, we join you guys. Also, how often do you guys meet subscribers? So on the street, a lot. Like specifically meeting up with subscribers, sometimes. Like, for example, we went to a wedding last night, and those were subscribers of us or of ours who invited us to the wedding, and it was really cool. So we met them there at the wedding for the first time, but that was a lot of fun. I try to be careful with that because I never know who's going to have bad intentions. But In terms of other travel YouTubers, sometimes. I should do that more. Millie asks, have you ever been to Huatulco? I have not, but I would love to go. What's the best Mexican coffee you've tried and from what region? Oh, I'm a terrible person to ask for this because I'm not much of a coffee connoisseur. It took me a long time to acquire any kind of taste for coffee. And then shortly after I acquired the taste, I had to stop because it was doing horrible things for my acid reflux. So for a few years now, I haven't been able to drink coffee at all. Here, Chiapas is really good coffee. Veracruz has great coffee. Had to get a mosquito. Okay, what's next? Liz asked, just joined the chat. After seeing your video on the negatives of buying a house in Mexico, was wondering if you guys will be buying a house. Ideally, I would like to be a citizen before buying a house. I have to confirm this, but I heard that you can get a citizenship in Mexico if you have a child in Mexico, and you get your permanent residency, and then you wait 18 months, and then you pass a citizenship test. So if you have permanent residency through the normal route, you have to wait 5 years and then pass a citizenship test, which is basically like a language and culture test about Mexico, or well, like Spanish language test and then a culture test. So basically, like if you have your Mexican citizenship, almost every single negative on that list no longer exists. There's still a couple there that do. But again, the 10th item on that list of reasons not to buy a house is a hard one for me to get past. And that doesn't change with citizenship. Now, if we really loved a house and we had the money, I know it, like buying a house isn't always a financial decision. It's not always about, oh, am I going to get a good return from this? Sometimes it's just like, is this going to improve my quality of life, reduce my stress, make me happy, things like that. But it would be hard for me to pull the trigger on a house when I know that I could put my money elsewhere. And I'm talking in the future right now. I don't have any money to buy a house right now because I bought Tangerine Travels instead of buying a house. But yeah, like it's hard for me to get past that 10th reason right now when I know I could put my money elsewhere and get a much better return and just collect the dividends and pay rent using the dividends. If you haven't seen it, like you can go watch that video of the reasons why I would and then the reasons why I wouldn't buy a home in Mexico. And so you can see like the numbers that I'm talking about. Emmanuel, thank you so much. I think I can't see this through my software here, but I think you sent stars on Facebook. And if you did, I really appreciate that. Yes, you did send stars. I comment and attach the stars. Okay, so maybe that's just not a problem with my software, but a problem with Facebook. I don't know. Because I never see people able to attach a comment to stars on Facebook. But I'll look for another comment from you. JC, do I have to pay somewhere or click on something for my questions to get answered for future reference when I have an actual good question? No, like I during these live streams, I answer as many questions as I can. But with that said, I do prioritize super chats, or like on Facebook, you can send stars, but I can't see them with my software. So after the stream, I do go on to Facebook and make sure I respond to everyone who sent stars. But during the live stream, I am prioritizing YouTube super chats because I can actually see that. Something about Facebook and not being able to see those stars. How large was your culture shock when you made the move down? Did it take a year to start feeling like home? I'll tell you when it started to feel like home. And that was when I stopped hopping from Airbnb to Airbnb, staying in each place for 1 week at a time, 2 weeks at a time, 2 days at a time, and actually got a long-term home. That was when it started to feel like home. Yes, there was culture shock. There's still culture shocks. Like almost every week, even still after living here for 5 years, I'm like, oh, I'm surprised that's done this way. Like something minor that I noticed today, actually, is that a lot of the houses, even in a nice neighborhood, they will be built connected to each other. So that this is just a small detail, but it's something you don't really see in the US. Like in the US, there's always a gap between houses. And there'll be sometimes they're really close together, but there's always some sort of gap there. But here and I'm not even just talking about like them building a big apartment or condo complex or something like that. I'm talking about like you're in a neighborhood with houses that are all unique, and they're literally built together sometimes with no space in between. So that was just one small detail that I noticed today. But yeah, there was lots of culture shocks, lots of things to get used to, but it's not all negative getting used to these things. It's a lot of surprises. And sometimes it's frustrating, like, oh, I wish this was done differently. And sometimes that can take time to get used to. Ray says in Canada, it's the same, Jordan. If you tell a woman she looks good, they might take it as harassment. You can't say anything to anyone. People are afraid to talk to each other. Yeah, I hear stories about that in the US too, like where people are like, they're like, for example, a guy's at work and he's afraid of like having some sexual harassment claim against him, or afraid of getting sued, or maybe the company owner's afraid of getting sued, or like there's lots of fear of lawsuits there, and fears of like losing job due to sexual harassment claims, things like that. And because of this, like a lot of the guys won't even speak to women in the workplace. And because this is happening, then a lot of women are feeling like left out and like feeling out of the social circle. So it's hard on the women too. So yeah, it's a kind of a tough position for everyone. Like if you're as a guy afraid of like a sexual harassment claim for looking at somebody wrong, saying the wrong thing, and like do you speak to the women you work with at all? Just if you don't speak to them, you don't have to worry about that at all. But if you don't speak to them, then they will feel really left out and may feel like that workplace isn't right for them and is lonely. I don't know. It's a tough position for everyone on what this has evolved into. Jay says, fellow gringo here, living on Mexico on the East Coast. Let's plan something. Like, are we talking about a meetup or some kind of like, oh my gosh, my brain's not working. Some kind of get together, some kind of trip. It'd be cool. I would like that. Jordan, do you like ABBA? Or should I disown you if you don't? Don't make me crazy. I think I like some ABBA songs. That's they're the band that sings Dancing Queen, right? And there's probably some other songs I like too. Oh, this is good. This is good information. I didn't think about this. As for sex motels, you have to understand that generations live in one house together. So that is the only place people can get together. It's not just for people who are cheating. Okay, that makes sense. Get over here, mosquito. There's so many mosquitoes coming into our house lately. That bug zapper is supercharged. Yeah. I charge this thing every single day. Every day this is plugged into the outlet right here. Got to get maximum charge because every morning I wake up, we leave a door open downstairs for the dogs to go in and out. And every morning when I wake up, I literally go and kill 100 mosquitoes in the house. There's like 4 places downstairs where where all the mosquitoes collect together. One's in the fireplace. Inside the fireplace, there's so many. Inside of a box, lots there. There's this little Lele doll that a bunch of them like to go into. Jordan, when is Mai going to do her cooking videos? I've been waiting. Yeah, so we've been talking about this, and the current house we live in does not have a good setup for cooking videos. So we're looking for a new house right now, and that's one of the things we're actually considering when we're looking at a house is does it have a good setup in the kitchen to film some cooking videos? And we found a few homes that we really like that would work great for it. If you put a pinch of baking soda in your coffee, it stops acid reflux, make it more alkaline. Okay, thanks for that piece of advice. I really appreciate that. Maybe I could try getting a latte or something. That I still don't like pure coffee, and I hate pure espresso. Like, I need my coffee watered down or milked down with like milk, sugar, sweetener, things like that. Like, I can really enjoy a latte, like a vanilla latte. But of course, that's not just pure coffee. It took me a long time to acquire any taste for coffee. How's Mexican Spec a mod? I think he's been a moderator on here for like 4 years. He's been around forever. Malia says, I'd rather rent at my age. That way I'm free to move around if I want. I'm too dang old to buy a house. You know, that's a good point, Malia. That's actually something I never mentioned in the reasons not to buy a house video is the flexibility. But now at the same time, if you don't buy, there's also flexibility with the landlord to sell your house, sell a house that you love that you're renting. So there's that risk. So the flexibility goes both ways. But yeah, it is nice to have the flexibility to move around though, because like, let's say you're renting in one city, and let's just say you're renting in Mazatlan, and then real estate prices start to go crazy there, rents go crazy. you do have the freedom to move to another city where rents haven't gone crazy. So even though, like, in a case like that, where buying a home might make more sense if you expect home prices to go crazy and rents to go crazy in the future, well, if you're you own the home, you don't have the freedom to move elsewhere. Well, I guess you could rent out your house. No, I think words are just coming out of my mouth now and I'm not making any sense at all. This is how my brain works. Like, I'm constantly thinking about things like this. Okay, here's this trade-off, this good thing, bad thing, good thing, bad thing, good thing, bad thing. And then this is what my brain does all day long. Oh, Manuel says luxury cars have full spare rims and thief valets will steal them and tape down the sensor in the trunk so the dash doesn't indicate that the spare is missing. Learn this the hard way. Wow. Yeah, earlier in the stream, I mentioned this new form of theft that I just found out about from um, thief valets. Does Guadalajara and Querétaro have about the same cost of living? I think so, but it's been a while since I've been in Guadalajara. I Before the next stream, I should look up some real estate rental options in Guadalajara to see how they compare to rental prices in Querétaro, so I can have a better answer in the future. George says, I grew up in Chicago and it's got a lot of attached buildings. So does Boston and Philly. Okay, that's something that didn't exist where I've lived in the US. So I've lived in Minnesota. Everybody had their own yard. There was always like big gaps between the houses. Moved to Arizona. Those big gaps became small gaps in a lot of communities. But there was always still space in between all the houses. Lived in the LA area for just 6 months. Remember, actually, no, I don't know that area well enough to say whether they had that or not. But yeah, Arizona and Minnesota always had gaps in between the houses. Maybe in a place like Chicago and Boston and Philly, is it because the land is so expensive? So they're trying to use up all the land and it's pretty expensive to buy a bigger plot of land. So then they just build on the entire thing, because that would make sense to me. Like, but thinking of this in a financial way, like in Minnesota, lots there are dirt cheap compared to a lot of places because it was pretty sparsely populated there. So you could buy a big lot for not a whole lot of money. But you go to a place like Boston, lots there are going to be really expensive because in that area, the population density is really high. So population density is high. That means lots are going to be more expensive. That means people are probably going to be more inclined to build on their entire lot rather than just on part of it. So from thinking about like through the economic incentives that people have, like that's why that would make sense to me in those cases. But I'd never really thought of that before now. Here's a question that I don't know if you can answer. The houses that are connected, are they soundproof or can you hear the neighbors? I will likely be buying one of those when I move to the mainland. So we live in one right now, and I can't hear the neighbors at all. But this house is very well constructed, high quality materials. Whereas around Querétaro, there's quite a few cheap apartments you can buy. So I'm talking apartments that are like in the 2 million peso or less range. Some of them are even less than a million pesos, or about $50,000. In these apartments, you can hear all of your neighbors. The walls are very thin. I've been in them. I've been in some of them. You can hear everything in those cheap apartments. So it really depends on the build quality. Wow, Robert. Here in La Paz, so that's Baja California Sur, not too far away from Cabo San Lucas, you can get a 2-bedroom, 1-bath for $350. Sometimes 2-bedroom, 2-bath. Also, small house, but in local neighborhoods. Okay, yeah, like getting away from the place where the tourists stay, getting away from the fancy neighborhoods. You go back into those neighborhoods where you have the taquerias, the little shops that they turn their house into a small little restaurant. You have the street food carts. You have the people driving up and down with their calls, selling stuff, buying your refrigerators, things like that. Those kind of neighborhoods. Yeah, that makes sense. Because even in the really expensive cities, you can still find cheap places to live. Well, cheap in terms of like US and Canadian standards. But yeah. Saw another one. I didn't even get anything. What the heck? Okay, I need to get caught up on comments here. Oh my gosh, I'm way behind. Okay, Henry, thanks for the super chat. I 100% agree with you, Jordan, on how American and Canadian women can be. From your knowledge, are Brazilian and European women more laid back and forward? I don't know. I don't know about Brazilian and European women, Henry. I haven't spent any time with them. I've only been to Europe when I've been in a relationship, and I've never been to Brazil. Chasey says, have you touched the zapper? Yeah, it hurts like a bitch. That thing is strong. Mexican Spec says, I touched the edge of my zapper. It is new without touching the button, and it shocked me. It hurt a lot. Yeah, so like even if you aren't pressing the button, it can still have charge built up in this. And if you touch it, it can hurt a lot. I mean, it's not going to kill you, but it will make you be, it'll have some bad words coming out of your mouth. Does Queretaro have lots of mosquitoes? Maya's from here, and she thinks that Queretaro has a lot of mosquitoes. But being someone who grew up in Minnesota, Queretaro does not have a lot of mosquitoes. Like, when you're in clouds of mosquitoes near the lake in Minnesota, and then these bats are swooping down to grab mosquitoes right in front of your face. That's what I consider a lot of mosquitoes. Living in the Riviera Maya, that's what I consider a lot of mosquitoes. And those are like ninja mosquitoes. They're so fast. Like mosquitoes here are slow and stupid. Like they're super easy to kill with this. Whereas in the Riviera Maya, they were so fast, and I would be trying to kill them with this, swinging this with this big racket, and it would a lot of times be hard to hit them because they were so fast and so nimble. and so smart, whereas here they're kind of stupid. And so, in my opinion, no, Querétaro does not have a ton of mosquitoes. But yeah, there's some. They're usually not a bother. Like if we go out to restaurants, we usually won't be bothered by mosquitoes, even if we're eating outside. There's one restaurant where, yes, it's this at these booths at this sushi restaurant. What's a sushi place called? Um, Sushi Roll. I actually really like that place. Monday, by the way, Mondays through Wednesdays, 2-for-1 sushi rolls. Uh, they're pretty creative with their rolls, and I like a lot of them. But anyway, at that one restaurant, at one particular location, the mosquitoes are horrible for some reason. I don't know why, but other than that, not really. Okay, let me try to get caught up on comments so I'm not responding to stuff. Okay, Henry says, Jordan, I think you missed my last super chat, or was that the one I just mentioned? No, okay, I got that now, but I'm seeing that late. Sherry asked, you and I speak mostly in English or in Spanish? So at first it was mostly in English. Now there's starting to be a lot more Spanish. And now I would say it's like 50-50, something like that. The mosquitoes is a state bird of Minnesota. Yeah, move over, loon. We got a new state bird. I see I have a fan here. Honestly, Jordan really doesn't know how hot he is, does he? Thank you. Living in a house on the other side of a road from a rice paddy, seeing the wall moving because it was that thick with mosquitoes. Yeah. At least like Minnesota mosquitoes were kind of dumb and slow, like the mosquitoes here in Querétaro, not like the super ninja mosquitoes in the Riviera Maya. Panaderia de pan. Yeah, or you have the guy driving up and down the streets with the song playing. El panadero con el pan, el panadero con el pan. That makes me laugh. It's from an old movie. I think it's from the 40s or something. But yeah, it's basically just saying the bread man with the bread in a little catchy tune. Do you feel like there's a lot more people with ego problems in the US than in Mexico? Hmm. No, I think it's pretty even. Maybe I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that, but in my personal experience, from what I know, I think ego problems of Americans versus Mexicans are pretty similar. Any feedback on Millennial Trace? Just bought a condo there that will be delivered next year. Uh, it's a nice location. It's you just go down the hill there, and you're right next to a lot of stuff. So from Millennial, you can get from Millennial Trace, you can get to a lot of places in the city pretty quickly. Uh, it's nice. I'd consider living there. And then being up on the hill there, a lot of times you have great views. Michelle says ego problems. Maybe he's talking about the machismo of men in Mexico. Yeah, there's a fair bit of that. Sylvia asks, what's the title referring to? Yeah, so the title of this stream is How Could I Be This Stupid? Just rewind it to about 3 minutes in, and sometime shortly after that, I tell the story. Jesse asks, how hard is it to find good realtors and lawyers? Is it like in the US where unless you are dropping big bucks, they don't want to help you because it's not worth their time? No, it's not like that. It's pretty easy to find good realtors and lawyers. And unlike in the US, if you want a lawyer here, it doesn't cost you a ton of money. I mean, if you're in like a long drawn out lawsuit, yeah, that could cost a lot of money. But if like a consultation, like getting advice from a lawyer, it's not like you have to pay $400 like you do in the US. Maybe it's $50. So yeah, like there's nothing like that not being worth their time. Like they'll be happy to have a client. At least the vast majority, I think. Are off-leash dog parks a big thing in Mexico? Uh, if you're going to a small town, no. But like here in Queretaro, there's dog parks. There's dog parks all over the place. We go to them almost every day. The view is definitely a huge selling point. Yeah, the view can be a big selling point up there. Whoa. Maria with the biggest super chat of the night. Thank you so much. And also thank you for being a channel member. If you guys don't know, this little thing next to the name indicates that she's a channel member. I don't see a comment from you there, but I'll look for another one from you. What is the prettiest or most scenic state you've ever been to? This is hard because over like driving across one state, you'll get so many different landscapes. Most scenic state. There's a lot of Jalisco that's really pretty. Like in Jalisco, you have the gorgeous beaches of places like Puerto Vallarta and around there. But then you drive up into the mountains and you have this incredible scenery, all these gorgeous mountain towns. Maybe Jalisco. But I mean, there's a lot of scenic states around Mexico. What wouldn't make it into my scenic state list? Sonora. Sonora's pretty boring. I mean, like all those up in the north part of the country, it's mostly desert. So, I mean, when you're driving across hundreds of miles of desert, that's never too exciting. Maria says, "Hi, Jordan. I'm camping with my hubby near the sequoias in California, and we're zapping mosquitoes here too." That's awesome. Oh, well, sorry you're getting bothered by mosquitoes, but I find that funny for some reason. I just joined your chat, but we'll have to see your replay since I missed most of it. So I was actually thinking of doing something differently. Instead of leaving the replay up, I was considering the possibility of taking the replay down, cleaning up the chat a little bit, or cleaning up the stream a little bit. So then you don't have to like go through all like the big long pauses where I'm searching for the next question, things like that, and then just re-uploading it as another video. What would you guys think about that? But if I did that, you would lose the live chat. So like watching the replay now, you can see the live chat. So doing that, it would condense the video a lot and make it a better viewing experience, but it it would detract from the viewing experience because you can no longer see the live chat and see what people were talking about. You would, of course, still see all of these comments on the screen, though. By the way, I went to the Redwood Forest when I was younger, and I remember having family picture where we were all holding hands around the tree, and we would only get like halfway around the tree. I don't have many memories from when I was a child, but I do remember a little bit from that trip, and it was crazy. Though those giant sequoias are insane. Jesse, thanks so much for joining as a channel member. Really appreciate that. And Miguel with the fireworks. Thanks, Miguel. Leanne asks, "Hi, Jordan. Is Alaska better?" Yeah. By the way, Leanne is asking this from Facebook, and if you don't follow the Facebook account, the Tangerine Travels Facebook account, I post a lot of updates on there. I'm posting something pretty much every day, and like a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, I posted that I was afraid Alaska was going to die. She got so sick so quickly. I didn't think she was going to make it through the night. And we took her to the emergency room and she got antibiotics and a bunch of other stuff. We actually ended up taking her back there. I think it was 4 days in a row because they're like, we want to continue seeing her. Do I get too excited for killing mosquitoes? But yeah, Alaska's doing great now. It took her like a week to fully recover. After a couple days, she was doing pretty well, but still pretty slow. 4 days, she was at like 90, 80, 90%. Then after a week, she was doing great. But also, the vet recently started her on this pill that's like gabapentina. It's actually something that humans take as well. Humans and animals both take it. And after about a week of taking that, it has helped with her mobility so much. So if you have a old dog or even cat who's struggling with mobility issues, go check out my post on my Facebook page. And I post a bottle of what Alaska's taking. You may want to ask your vet about it. It's like a 45-day supply, and it was about $30. So it's not cheap, but it's not the most expensive medication ever. And so far, it's changed Alaska's life. She's now running around instead of just walking around slowly. Noticed a huge change since giving her that. We're doing a lot of other things for her, like red light therapy, laser therapy, all sorts of supplements. But this, I forget what it's called exactly, but gabapentina or something like that, and working wonders. Where's Maya at? She's was going to bed early. She was pretty tired. Ooh, mosquito. Maggie says I paid 1,000 pesos, a little over $50, for a lawyer in Mexico to review my contract to buy the house. And that might be a long contract. That could be 2 hours of the lawyer's time. Here in the US, it costs that much for them to open an email and read it. Yeah, no kidding. Sherry says, no, don't lose the live chat, please. I'm linking this on my daily blog so all my followers can see it. Oh, okay. What if I had both the live and the cut down version? So I keep this up, but then I also post a cut down version. So for those who don't mind losing the live chat, yeah, that's a possibility, because now YouTube they don't have all of the videos on the same page, so it's not all a mess like it was before. And now there's a separate tab for live videos. I often watch replays in their entirety just to see the chat interactions. I just leave it as is, less work too. Yeah, I like that too. But at the same time, I also see a lot of comments saying, hey, I wish you would cut this down and just cut out all these parts, like where you're searching for comments and things, or you're searching for like the next question to answer, because I want the information and I want to consume it as fast as possible. So could you edit it a little bit, please? So there's people who prefer both ways, and maybe I could try that to help satisfy everyone. Good thing I didn't see that post. Yeah, the one about Alaska. I thought she was going to die. I was so sad. I was crying all night. In fact, I didn't think she was going to make it through the night. She always sleeps in the kitchen, and I slept in the kitchen with her. I just put a mattress pad down and slept there. I did that after her surgery too. Like, she couldn't get up on the bed anymore. So I slept on the floor with her for a couple of months because she was used to sleeping with me. Gabapentin. So yeah, that must be the name in English. And it's like gabapentina in Spanish. Yeah, I'm giving her CBD as well. CBD has worked really well for her too. That many mosquitoes? Maybe you need to check the mosquito screen. No, it's just because one door is open. Because a lot of times we like to leave a door open so the dogs can go in and out as they please to go to the bathroom. And all the mosquitoes are coming in through that door. And this light that's on in front of me is the only light on in the house. So I'm guessing they're all being attracted to the light right now after they come in here. JC says, okay, now I have a decent question. I went to the dentist here in Mexico. They pulled 3 teeth so my braces would work correctly. I asked for them to knock me out with anesthesia, but they said they don't do that here. Is that true, or am I just at the wrong dentist? That's generally true. Yeah. For more minor surgeries, they're typically not going to give you anesthesia. In fact, I think that's pretty rare for you to get anesthesia. And so doctors generally won't do that if they think they can do the surgery or whatever the procedure is without it. And also when it comes to surgeries, They tend to not prescribe very strong painkillers and try to give you the bare minimum for painkillers. Um, you know, it's very easy to get drugs over the counter here, and even if you don't have a prescription, even if you need a prescription for it, you you could go to the pharmacy, pay like 50 pesos, $3 or something, and then you get a prescription written for you at the pharmacy, and you can get drugs and painkillers very easily, generally, generally speaking. But when it comes to surgeries and things like that, doctors are very careful about prescribing strong painkillers. So I find that pretty interesting. I once paid 5,000 USD to have a lawyer review a contract in the US. They are the Mosquitoes. Damn. It's crazy. Yep, not a typo. Is pot legal in Mexico? Yes and no. It's kind of in a gray area right now. It was illegal, but then there's a thing in Mexico that, if I understand correctly, if the Supreme Court in Mexico rules against a law 3 times, Congress is forced to change that law. And this happened with pot. The Supreme Court ruled against it 3 times, Congress was forced to change the law. They were given a deadline. I think they were given a year to come up with what the law was going to be. That deadline came and went. Then they were given a new deadline, and then new deadline, and then it just kept, they couldn't come to a decision. There were something like 7 different potential laws that could be passed, and they weren't passing any of them. But the Supreme Court ruled that they had to, and then they just kept missing their deadlines. And now I'm not super up to date on this, and this is based on a little bit foggy of memory from a couple of years ago because it's been so long since this happened. Maybe it's even been 3 years since this happened. But I've heard that you still don't see stores where they sell it and you can buy it. You don't see that yet. But I hear that you can grow your own plants and smoke your own plants without worry. Now, I would ask a legal expert. Don't take my advice on this because I'm not super confident in this answer. I'm like 80% confident in this answer, and I don't know what the enforcement is like, if it is still illegal or what. Because something about laws in Mexico is a law can pass, and then it may never be enforced, or it may take years before it starts getting enforced, or it may take years before people start learning about it or care to start enforcing it. Like, for example, like 4 years ago, there was this drone law that was passed in Mexico that basically, if you didn't have a Mexican pilot's license, you couldn't fly a drone. It's been years since that. I've never seen or heard of anything like that being enforced. There were massive fines for it, like breaking that law, but I've never seen anything like that. And it seems that just people don't care, or maybe they ended up changing the law. I don't know what happened with that, but I've never seen any changes, and people have continued flying their drones, no problem, right in front of police, doesn't matter. You don't need general anesthesia for the dentist. It's a money grab in the US. I got it at the dentist once. And though I've never been really wanted to try many drugs, but I got my wisdom teeth out and I got some kind of general anesthesia at the dentist. And that was the greatest drugs I've ever tried. It felt like I was just plastered on alcohol for 17 hours straight without the side effects of puking. That was a weird experience. Full length of the door mosquito netting would help and still let the dogs get in and out. Just don't secure the bottom portion with Velcro pieces. You'll still have about 80% of the door area. Yeah, yeah, we could do something like that. And if we own the house, I'm sure we would put more effort into like finding a good permanent solution, like these giant windows that are making the house super hot every single day. Um, but it's like when you're renting the house, how much money do you really want to invest into improving these things when you know you're going to be leaving before long? Like if I were renting this house and planned on staying long term, then it would be different, and I'd be putting more effort into improving these little things that would make our everyday life better. But I'm not going to spend $1,000 or $2,000 to cover these giant windows when we're leaving after the lease is up at the end of the year. Glenn, did you manage to drink those huge margaritas the other day? They serve them in soup bowls. Whoa, I'm from Canada. Don't see that here. Yeah, don't tell anybody, but that was actually at Chili's. So this was another Facebook post. We posted this picture of Mai and I with these giant margaritas. I'll see if I have a picture here on my phone that I can pull up and show you guys quickly. By the way, we've been on here for more than 3 hours. Thank you all for staying on. Between Facebook and YouTube, there's still over 200 people on here, and it's 11 o'clock at night where we're at. So I really appreciate you all hanging out. I don't usually do streams this long. Okay. So we posted this on Facebook. Just these huge fishbowl margaritas. But it was at Chili's, and we don't make a habit of going to Chili's here, but we we actually went to we tried two other restaurants first that night. We were just wanted some wings, but it happened to be the night on Thursday when there was a big soccer game going on. It was uh, I think Guadalajara versus Monterrey, and we went to two wings place before. Neither one of them had a table available. Then our third restaurant we tried was Chili's, and it happened to be like drink special Thursdays. And every Thursday they have these great drink specials. So those giant margaritas you saw, and they're made with pretty good tequila. The normal price is 189 pesos or over $10. Well, on Thursdays, those were 59 pesos or about $3. So yeah, that was cool. Great deals at Chili's on Thursdays, especially on the margaritas, but they have specials on all the drinks as well. Mark says, I posted on your Hertz scam story, my revenge story. They sold me a used car that had been in an accident, but never disclosed it. Okay, so you were buying a car from them, like one of the cars that they used to rent out to people. They showed me a clean Carfax. My mechanic discovered it. I sued their asses and they refunded all of my money plus legal fees. They were probably scared of punitive damages. Free rental for 11 and a half years. Wow. Was that in the US? Uh, is there a certain brand of dog food you've used for Alaska? Looking for a better one for a new puppy. We lost our 13-year-old poodle in January. It was brutal. Oh, I'm so sorry. Thought I was going to lose Alaska, and I was devastated. But for most of Alaska's life, she has had the Kirkland signature dog food from Costco. So there's this website that I've used for a long time. It's been around for quite a few years, and dogfoodadvisor.com. And basically what this website does, it analyzes the ingredients of various dog foods and it gives it a rating for you. So you don't have to do this yourself. It's a great website to go look at. Just go to dogfoodadvisor.com, put in the kind of food that you're feeding your dog currently and see the kind of grade it gets. Because like pretty much everything you could buy at a store like Walmart gets a horrible rating. I think it's I think the rating scale is 1 star is the worst, 5 star is the best. Yeah, that's what it is. And like everything you buy at Walmart, pedigree, all those kind of things, it's all 1 star. The ingredients are crap. Now, if you go to like Petco or PetSmart, most of those are 4 and 5 stars. Like they're using good ingredients, but that food is really darn expensive. But you go to Costco, you get food for less than half of the price of the Petco and PetSmart foods. Like actually more like a third of the price if you're looking at a per pound metric, maybe even 1/4 of the price. And the Costco food gets between 4 and 5 stars as well, that Kirkland signature food. Depending on which exactly it is, because like if you get one with chicken versus one with lamb, they have different star ratings. So you have to look at the exact specific dog food. Okay, Mark, thanks for the additional information here regarding cannabis. Cannabis is in Mexico is legal for both recreational and medicinal purposes. It became legal for recreational purposes June 2021 upon application and issuance of a permit from the Health Secretariat, COFEPRIS. I don't know how you pronounce that acronym. On June 21st, the Supreme Court of Mexico decriminalized the recreational use of cannabis. President AMLO signed a bill that allows adults 18 and over to possess up to 28 grams of cannabis and da da da. Okay, so that's just a copy and paste from the Wikipedia Cannabis in Mexico page. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. 28 grams of cannabis. No, that's not what I have. 28 grams to ounces. The answer is 0.99 ounces. So up to basically an ounce is illegal to possess. A law of race says a law in Mexico is a suggestion. A lot of times that's the case. But then there's a lot of other times where they're very strict about certain laws. So don't think the law about not having guns or ammunition without the appropriate paperwork and license for it is just a suggestion, because that'll put you in prison for 5 or 7 years, and they're very strict about that. And they're strict about a lot of things, but then there's a lot of things they don't seem to give a damn about. So it just weird like that. Like, for example, when it comes to traffic laws, it seems like they don't really care to enforce a lot of traffic laws. Talking about those margaritas, yeah, they were huge. They were really tasty too. Like the flavors were excellent, and they weren't using crap ingredients. Is Chili's in Mexico the same as Chili's in the US? Yes, it's just cheaper here. And they have this good deal where, I mean, it's a pretty good deal. There's restaurants where you can get better deals here, but Queretaro being one of the more expensive cities in Mexico, it's still a pretty good deal. Like it's this 3 for me promotion that they have going on. It's like about $10, and you get a salad, a drink, and a main dish. or a soup or salad drink and main dish, and uh, it's really good. We don't go there a lot, but it's tasty. In case you all don't know, never rent from Hertz. They should change their name to Hertz, Truth in Advertising. Yeah, and if you haven't seen my experience with Hertz in Cancun, there's a video on that a couple months ago on the channel. You can go check it out. What a nightmare. Bunch of scammers. I'm up in Canada. The mosquitoes are like pterodactyls. Got another one. Stop signs are more like yield signs in my experience. Yeah, they're stoptional for sure. Heck, even stop lights. Like the light will turn green and then 10 cars will go through going the other way after my light turns green. That is not uncommon at all. Hertz rented a YouTuber a car that had been reported stolen by them 2 days before. He was pulled out of the car at gunpoint, and he has military intelligence. He didn't appreciate that. Yeah, I can't say I'd appreciate that either. Dino says, big fan from Oxnard, California. Thanks for joining. Really appreciate that. Yeah, thank you all for spending time with me this evening. So I don't have to tell the whole story over again. Just rewind the stream to about 3 minutes in, and I tell the story sometime around there. It's optional. Yep. The food isn't cheaper, at least not the ribs. So I don't think Chili's in the US has the deals where you can get a whole meal for $10 or a giant margarita on Thursdays for $3. Um, but yeah, the ribs are the same price, I think. Like the big rack of baby back ribs was like 400 pesos, a little over $20. But I think most of the dishes are a bit cheaper here than in the US. Detroit stop signs are also stoptional. Well, since the questions are slowing down and I've been on here for over 3 hours, I think I might call it a night. Uh, Thank you all for joining. I really appreciate that. Thanks for interacting and asking questions and all that. It's fun to hang out with you guys like this. I'll have to do it more often. I'll try to do this every week instead of a month like it has been. But thanks to the moderators, channel members, everyone who sent super chats. Really appreciate you all. And thanks for watching the videos. Tangerine Travels wouldn't be a thing if it wasn't for you guys. And I know all of you on here right now are some of the most loyal viewers of the channel. If you haven't seen them, I released a very short video today. If you're interested in moving to Mexico, that's something that will help you out. And then yesterday, I released a video on the reasons why I wouldn't buy a home in Mexico. And then the previous week, it was the reasons why I would buy a home in Mexico. So if you haven't seen those, go check them out. Thank you all, and hope you have a good night and a great week.